two figures appeared on a supposedly deserted island in the middle of the night, vanished the instant the flashlight moved away, and by the next morning we found a human figure built entirely out of sticks leaning against a tree exactly where they'd been standing. If stories like this keep you up at night, hit subscribe, because after years of treating this island like our second home, one single night changed how I think about it forever. I didn't grow up in a busy city, but I was spoiled with an almost endless amount of outdoor activity growing up. Hiking, camping, and best of all, easy access to the water. I could never afford a boat myself, but my friend Trevor's family had one, and we spent countless hours out on it growing up. Once Trevor got his boating license, his dad started letting us take it out on our own. Back in high school, we discovered a small island along one of our usual boating routes, roughly the size of a big box store, if I had to guess. Through high school, college, and into early adulthood, we kept coming back to it. Occasionally we'd see someone else fishing nearby, but most of the time it was completely empty. It felt like our own private island. I always assumed it stayed empty because there was nowhere good to dock. No proper dock at all, actually, just a small strip of shoreline surrounded by rocky cliffs and trees. Trevor would anchor offshore, and we'd swim the short distance in. It sounds like a hassle, but honestly, it never was. Over the years, we explored every inch of that island. We set up our own markers so we always knew where we were. In high school, it was the perfect spot for games of manhunt. As we got older, it became more of a hangout spot, somewhere we could be loud and just enjoy being young. One strange thing I noticed as I got older was just how little wildlife the island actually had. No birds, no nests, no small mammals, no reptiles. We barely even saw insects out there, which looking back should have told us something. Whenever we brought someone new along, we'd tell them made-up stories about the island being cursed, just to get a reaction out of them. It was always a joke, until one night a few years ago that I still can't fully explain. By this point, Trevor had his own boat, and he suggested something we'd somehow never done in all those years, camping overnight on the island. He could fit 8 of us on board for an overnight trip. It sounded incredible, especially since there was a girl in our friend group, Megan, who I'd been getting to know a lot better around that time. We left the dock in the afternoon and reached the island around 4. The first few hours were amazing. We gave everyone the full tour, showed them everything we'd discovered over the years. As night fell, we cooked hot dogs over a fire and settled in, telling stories, just enjoying the whole atmosphere. Up to that point, it was honestly one of the best nights I'd ever had on that island. Several hours in, I noticed Megan had gone unusually quiet. She was normally laughing and talkative, but now she just seemed lost in thought, glancing repeatedly toward the tree line a few feet away, which was almost pitch black from where we sat. When I asked if she was okay, she said she kept hearing movement in the trees. I told her it was probably an animal. She reminded me what we'd told everyone earlier, that we'd never actually seen an animal on that island. I pointed out we'd also never stayed overnight before, so maybe it was just something nocturnal. She didn't look convinced, still squinting toward the darkness. "I don't think an animal's out there," she said. Everyone except Trevor and me started getting genuinely uneasy. Trevor's girlfriend Rosie asked if we were absolutely certain we were the only ones on the island. We were sure no other boats anchored anywhere, and we'd walked the whole island earlier without seeing a single sign of anyone else. Trevor grabbed a flashlight, trying to calm everyone down, and slowly swept the beam across the tree line to prove there was nothing there. Megan screamed and pointed. 2 figures standing at the edge of the trees, barely visible in the dark, staring directly back at us. Trevor swung the light back toward that same spot, and sure enough, there they were. It's one of the most unsettling things I've ever seen with my own eyes. Trevor flinched, and the beam jerked away. When he raised it back to the same spot, they were gone. We started to panic. Trevor called out, telling them to show themselves. Nothing. A few of us ran toward the trees, which in hindsight wasn't exactly smart. When we got there, nobody was around, just faint laughter drifting somewhere deeper in the woods. I told Trevor we should leave, just to be safe. His pride was clearly wounded, but he agreed. As we packed up and put out the fire, Megan kept telling us to hurry, insisting she could still hear the laughter, even though she couldn't get the flashlight beam on anything. We waded back into the water toward the boat. Just before Trevor and I could climb aboard, Megan screamed again, light fixed on the beach behind us. Both figures were now standing right there on the sand. I jumped onto the boat, and as Trevor climbed up, a woman's voice called out his name. He stopped and turned back toward her. She asked him to walk into the forest with her, said she wanted to show him something, promised she'd come back for the rest of us after. For a moment, Trevor genuinely looked like he might actually go. I grabbed him and physically pulled him back onto the boat. He didn't say a word about it afterward, didn't even acknowledge that he'd been about to turn back. We pulled anchor and left. As we pulled away, Megan kept the light trained on the shore. The man had vanished, but the woman stood there watching us go until she finally turned and walked back into the trees. Trevor circled the island once before we headed home, checking for any boat that might explain how these two had gotten there. Nothing. No vessel anywhere. They'd already been on that island when we arrived, with no visible way to have gotten there. The mainland was far enough away that swimming it would have been nearly impossible. I still think about that night constantly. There's nowhere on that island to hide that we hadn't already explored, and we'd walked the entire thing that same afternoon without seeing a trace of anyone. It was like those two had simply appeared out of nothing. Trevor and I went back once more the very next day, looking for any evidence of them. A few feet into the woods, we found something leaning against a tree, a human figure, built entirely out of sticks. We didn't stay long after that. I still don't know exactly what happened that night, but I can say with total confidence that something about that island isn't right. I have no interest in going back. Still, I'm grateful for every good memory we made there before that night changed everything. What that night taught me, more than the fear of it, is to trust the instincts of the people around you. Even when you're convinced you understand a place better than anyone, sometimes the ground you think you know best is exactly where you should be the most careful.